you know. Uh, as our politicians in Africa continue to lecture us about Pan Africanism, you know, we have voices who are calling for accountability, like Jacinta Ngobese. Now, I wouldn't say I support the whole March and March movement. Um, I mean, there are issues we have to talk about, in terms of how we are self identifying as Africans. But I mean, there are things we have to discuss on governance. And what Jacinta is doing right is calling out African leadership as a whole. That is that is the Pan-African thing to do. This thing of trying to hide behind Pan-Africanism, to manipulate situations, it's wrong. It's wrong. We must call our leaders to account, and we must call ourselves to account. Hold ourselves accountable, hold our leadership accountable. There is no other way out, African family. There is no other way out. We must insist African leadership be held accountable. I mean, you got countries where you have leaders who have been in office since independence. You look at the condition of the people, nothing has changed. Then, for example, you look at Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew, the leader of Singapore, who made decisions to ensure his country prospers. And then you have all these African leaders protecting each other for nonsense. It's unacceptable, African family. Unacceptable. Um, I wouldn't say, I'm 100% behind Jacinta, but she is raising a necessary conversation in Africa. It's not just South African, it's in Africa. This issue of accountability. We must ourselves be governed by laws. Self-governance. You can't talk about anything else before you talk about self-governance. Self-governance, Africa. We must. We have no choice, you know. Um, and it's not even a matter of hatred or bigotry. It shouldn't be that. It ought to be accountability, you know. It ought to be accountability. Law. Do we have laws in Africa that govern us and that govern our politicians? We have to talk about that. We cannot just do this romantic Pan-Africanism where there's no accountability. It's not real. It's not real. I I'm about realism. Let's be real. Let's stop being fake. You know, uh, like I said, I mean, at some point it feels as though I've evolved beyond just Pan-Africanism because you know ideologies can be problematic in that you sometimes have to support them even if they are in contradiction with reality. That becomes a problem. So while I still hold Pan Africanism, as informative and giving direction to me, I don't follow it religiously. Unfortunately, I can't follow it religiously because I believe the true Pan Africanists were always those who were willing to critically engage on critical matters, you know. So we can't, you know, I hear Thabo Mbeki, what he's saying, about the need for Africa to be integrated. The thing he does not address, which is foundational, is law. Uh, Integration under what law, what principles? You know what I mean? What are the foundational principles of this integration and this African unity? You can't just talk about it, in a vacuum. What are the principles that govern and guide this African unity, this Pan Africanism? Our Pan African founding fathers argued, they agreed, they disagreed, you know, along different lines. I mean, Julius Nyerere, I believe, is the one who advised against, that whole idea of um, Africa, one Africa now. At his time, he's one of those who said, let's do it gradually, because he was thinking about the possibility of conflict, you know, that we could have conflict, could end up with conflict, um, and not end up achieving the goal of unity. So we we are going to need an African Union 3.0 if necessary to talk about what we are saying now. See, these African leaders who have been in office, I I don't think they are going to be able to do anything regional integration, or I don't think they can solve any issues. I think the youth are the ones who have to have this new Pan African conference to talk about the direction and future of Africa. I mean, we're already having the conference on social media, you know. Let's actually meet and discuss, what are the principles for the new direction for Africa and how African countries must be governed and govern themselves. Once we discuss that, we can then be on the same page. But you can't talk about, I mean, if things are uneven, you can't have a discussion. For example, if you are in Uganda and you feel your government is repressive, and then you want to move to South Africa because you want a more democratic situation for yourself, you want to have a situation where you can voice, your concerns to your government, but you can't do it in Uganda, so you move to South Africa. That is counterproductive. What you need to do is put pressure on the Ugandan government. And if you want us as South Africans to help you with that, that is where we come in to say, let us raise our voice to say, no, people in Uganda are not happy. They would like a different type of social and political order. So let's be honest about that. Don't move to South Africa, and then you still want to defend what is happening in your home country when you know you don't agree with it. It is disingenuous. So, African family, let's have honest conversations. We can't avoid this one. Can't avoid it. One love.